That's my imitation of all these crypto people that are losing sight of the market right now, because at the time of filming this, it's been a pretty big dip in all the crypto coins and such. And I see all these people on X, they're just freaking out about their crypto. And I'm like, you guys are the ones that are supposed to be knowing about what Bitcoin actually is, right? Because I, for one, learned from someone who is very knowledgeable in the Bitcoin verse, you could say, the Bitcoin universe, that the first rule of Bitcoin is you do not sell your Bitcoin. It's like the first rule of Fight Club. You do not talk about Fight Club. It's the same thing with Bitcoin. You do not sell or even talk about selling your Bitcoin. So I don't know what these people are freaking out about, because you still have the same amount of Bitcoin you did before. But anyway, it's just kind of funny, because you have to be relentless in your mindset. And you have to have this sense that no matter what's going to happen in life, you're going to be well off. You're going to do well. This is a skill set thing. And when you recognize that life is very much like a video game, that it's kind of like whenever you've played a sport too, like I've been playing racquetball a lot recently, and I'm getting really into it. I'm really finding myself to be compelled to learn it more, because I'm playing with better people that they take it very sincerely. They take it very sincerely and they know what they're doing. And so I kind of have to really pick up my game to play. And I love these kinds of team sports. Me personally, I love playing sports in general. I don't really care to watch them anymore, but I love to play sports because it gets me active in my warrior archetype. And I can just feel myself and my testosterone raising by just the competitiveness of the sport. And I like that, the competitiveness. Some people get their kicks in competitions from like business, other people from sports, other people from doing other things. I like sports. That's the way that I get my testosterone up, really. And I just feel like I'm really in the moment. I'm very present. My extroverted sensing cognitive function is very much active, and that's my least developed cognitive function. My most developed cognitive function is my introverted intuition. And so I can very much just go with the flow, and the more I trust my intuition, the better. But if anybody's not familiar with those cognitive functions, check out the MBTI personality test, and you'll see the different kinds of functions on there. It's developed from, and it's an extension of Carl Jung's personality tests and psychological functions and psychological types, really. And I think it's a great rendition, and I think it's the most accurate personality test out there that you can take for free at any time. But, all in all, there's actually some very useful types of cognitive functions in there that you can use. And what's interesting is the more I leaned into my strengths and the less that I tried to repress my weaknesses when it came to my cognitive functions or just my personality in general, I stopped being nice. I stopped being the nice guy. In fact, being nice got me nowhere fast. In fact, sometimes the more selfish I became and am in this life, it's like the more opportunities that I have opening up to me, and I can be great for a while. I can be good for a while, but it's a matter of balancing the awareness that you have with your compassion, along with your industriousness, along with your open-mindedness, and along with your reverence for life in general. And you have to have boundaries with these things. But I want to read you a little bit from my book, The Book of Oldishness. And the reason that I'm going to be reading this section is because this is something that I learned that really helped me cultivate a better understanding of a holistic approach to not being a people pleaser. Being nice and a people pleaser was the worst thing that could ever happen to me. And so the self-realized and self-remembered value tools above weapons. But what are the tools of wisdom, my brothers and sisters? Ponder these things. For what is the greatest tool of an artist, if not his own hand? And what is the greatest tool of the builder, if not his own vision? What is the greatest tool of the musician, if not his own ear? Do ponder these things. So what exactly does this mean, right? Because there's a variety of different interpretations that you can get with this, but it's the tools of wisdom that you're going to need in developing a more strong sense of self. Being nice, it's like the most dangerous thing you could do to yourself. Being kind is different. Okay, I categorize niceness and kindness to be different things, because it's more about knowing your limits as a man or a woman, really, whoever is watching this. But it's more about knowing your limits as a man. It's about knowing who you are, what you're about, why you're doing the things that you're doing, and knowing that you can't really create something without your hands, right? It's very hard to create things without having this contact with the world. That's why our hands are so useful. Our hands are so they're so versatile in their movements, and their, it's like a juxtaposition to life itself to some degree, because not very many species have the kinds of things and capacities that we do with our hands. But we're also not super dangerous compared to, like a lion is a walking weapon, for example, right? A lion is a walking weapon for sure. But the artist, his greatest tool is his hand. Okay, it's not necessarily going to be anything like, of course, he has to channel creativity, but what can you create with your hands? What are you doing with your hands to create something, right? And then the tool of the builder, well, that's his vision, because you can't build something without visualizing it. And then with the tool of the musician, if not his own ear. Well, what I mean by this is not strictly musicians in general, but it's more of an example of how, well, the thing is with musicians is think about all of the musicians that you've ever known, and some of the best musicians that you've probably ever heard, they don't read music. They don't know how to read music. They know the chords, they know how to sound, or how it sounds, and then they go and they do their thing, right? They just go off and they have whatever it is that they want to focus on, and that's what they focus on. And it's not really a strict thing, right? Like even Beethoven, for example, right? Beethoven, he heard the music in his own mind. Okay, that was like an inner ear that he was listening to, because he was deaf towards the end of his life. He was deaf, or not deaf. He was deaf. Can you imagine being a composer? One of the best composers musically of all time, Beethoven, and you're deaf? How can you write music like that and be deaf? You have to have an insane amount of inner earness, like inner earness that just completely reshapes you. And I genuinely believe that sometimes when it comes to spirituality, like some people, maybe they don't really recognize this immediately, but if they have like a massive talent or something like that, they often have to sacrifice one of their senses so that they can get more of whatever it is their talent is. And I think in Beethoven's case, one thing is, he was so talented in music and such that it was almost like spiritually speaking, he had to be deaf in order to keep cultivating the gift. Otherwise, it would have drove him mad. It would have drove him insane, just because he could actually hear things. I think in some ways we wouldn't have had certain compositions from Beethoven, for example, if it weren't for him being deaf. And I think the thing is like, it goes along the lines with a lot of different other kinds of people. Like, how some people, they have these ways about them. They have these ways about them where they're almost physically impaired, you could say, and their spirit is like trying to tell them something, and the only way that the spirit can tell them is through the physical. Like, for example, with me, I often give this example, at least in the past videos that I've made, with my right shoulder. My right shoulder was often uh, conducive towards external struggles or masculine struggles, or just like a feeling of tyranny being placed on me. Like, the right side of my body was usually external or masculine, and the left side of my body was either feminine or internal, something internal. And so there was times in my life, even up until the last week sometimes, like when there are things happening externally, my right shoulder will sometimes get kind of it's like I know that it's not a tendon that's hurting. I know that it's something spiritually that's being released, or that there's something coming up. And it's almost like once you get to a point on the path, it's like instant karma. And I don't mean karma as in not reaping what you sow, because yes, you do reap what you sow, but I speak about karma in a very loose sense, that like what goes around comes around, right? Like that's the basic understanding. I don't get too far into the realms of karma, because you can get kind of lost in some rabbit holes there. But ultimately, the point is that where it is on your body too, like if it's on your leg, like if you have like a right knee problem, well, there's usually something going on with your root chakra, right? There's usually something going on with the lower levels of your being. Then if you have something going on with your stomach, like a lot of women nowadays have digestive issues. And I genuinely believe that the reason that they have all these like autoimmune diseases and such, and all these digestive issues, is because a lot of their egos are super inflated. Okay. And then you have men who are just like hunched over. Have you seen those kinds of men? Or it looks like their neck goes like that. It's like there's like a bump on their neck. That's usually they're blocking their throat chakra, right? So there's little signs to the physiognomy that you can see in a person to determine where they're at spiritually sometimes. Not always, of course, you can't be right 100% of the time, and there's just going to be a few indicators though, and some things are going to be analogous to the situations of life. I was talking about this with somebody in the Regal Change Academy recently, where he was talking about stuff that was going on, and how the situation in his life is analogous to certain things going on spiritually, and he could see that in me as well. And so we were chatting about that a little bit and just conversing on that topic. And I think that this is something that many people are like, it's an unknown that doesn't need to be unknown. It's actually very easy if you have eyes to see and ears to hear. But then again, you have to have eyes to see and ears to hear. And I see how there's so many people right now that are going through times of real difficulty and challenge. And it's particularly because they're repressing themselves. They're not letting themselves be expressed to the other person. And I would much rather be truthful and live in accordance to what God wants me to be doing, and be rejected by the world, than to ever be rejected by Christ. That, like, I don't fear, like, I fear God, of course. I fear God above all else, but it's not like him per se that I fear. I do fear him, but I fear what's going to happen to me if I do not have God, if I do not have Jesus Christ. If Jesus Christ rejects me, okay, eternity is on the line. Okay, eternity is on the line. And that's really just my approach now when it comes to talking to anybody. I know that eternity is on the line always. It's always on the line. And there's really nothing that you can do except acknowledge it, and trust the process. This is something that if you don't recognize on a physical level of what's happening, as far as like what you do has consequences, holy crap, spiritually, you're going to be blind as a bat. And you're not going to be able to I don't know what they do. How they like don't they like make sounds with their mouths to see where they're going? I can't remember what exactly it's called, but somebody in the comments I'm sure knows. But yeah, there's something that bats do where they like open their mouths to make a sound and they can fly. Like that's how they see things. Um, which I don't know why they have eyes then. I didn't think about that until just now. But that's another story for another time. The real point I want to drive home, though, in this video is self-realization and self-remembrance is going to be very key in moving from a place of niceness to kindness. And it's not about, because here's the thing. When's the last time you met somebody that had a really hard life and was a complete a-hole to other people? Now, that might happen very much, okay? It might happen a lot. But they might make it seem like that's not what happened or that's not what's going on. And the more you have this emotional intelligence about you, the more that you'll see that when people act like that, it's not because of them really. Like, yes, they are choosing to act this way and they ought to be held accountable, of course. But it's also that by dealing with your own darkness, because Carl Jung says the best way to understand other people's darkness is to look at your own shadow and you conquer your own darkness, right? You're able to look at those people's darknesses and you just see it for what it is, and you acknowledge that this is probably a person that they didn't want to have to do what they are doing or they have done, but they can't quite help it. Like, so many people are self-sabotaging right now that I see. And it's so sad because these people have so much potential. I can literally see their potential yearning to shine forth. And it's like their bodies can't handle the light. Because if you can't accept the light that Christ wants to bestow upon you and in you, your body is going to reject it and you're going to self-sabotage. And everybody that is on this path, I swear on my life, I've seen this time and time again. People are either, like, if they are godlike savages, or they're striving to be that godlike savage, or just striving to be better people, and trying not to think about things too much. What might end up happening is they self-sabotage, or they just win and win and win. There's no in between that I've seen, because these people are either hot or cold. They're either all in or they're all out. And these people that are self-sabotaging, I really pray for them. I really hope that they see what it is that they're actually doing to themselves, because it's just, there's so much there that they could be doing. There's so much more there, and they're letting their emotions get caught up. And look, when I'm saying this, I'm pointing one finger at you and I'm pointing one finger at me, because I know that I have to always make sure that I'm keeping myself in check. Otherwise, yes, I will let my emotions lead me into this desert. Okay, and I don't want to go into the desert, man. I don't want to go to the desert. But that is the way that it is sometimes, And this is how you have to deal with problems sometimes. And the best way to deal with issues when it comes to self-sabotage and being nice is, because here's the thing, some people will be nice until they just haven't had enough. Like they want to like protest and rebel for no reason. Like they're not used to kindness, they're used to niceness. And so these same people that want to be kind, but they don't quite know how. And so when they experience it, they kind of just, again, their bodies can't handle it. They don't know how to deal with it. It'll feel good for the moment if the person's present with them. But after that, it's like the person kind of develops this weird complex internally. And they start to go back to their old ways because they were around people that wanted to have this person, this individual, attack their own nervous system. And this is not good. If you're constantly attacking your own nervous system, it's not going to go out for the better, man. It's not going to go out for the better. And you might not even know that it's happening until it happens. And it's because your mind has not healed. Okay, and it's not even your mind really that's, I mean, yes, your mind needs to heal because it's your old thought algorithms. Like, your old thought algorithms are going to destroy you. So many people see groups like the Regal Change Academy, for example, and they'll be like, I don't know. Like, the online groups, online forums, they're not for me. Meanwhile, they don't even want to give it a shot because they're afraid of not even seeing the potential of themselves. They're afraid that they're going to actually see their potential. They're going to see what they're able to be doing. They're going to see the work that they're going to have to put in. And they're going to see other people that are aligned, that want to do better, that want to be better for themselves. And they're going to be afraid that they're going to actually have to live up to their own ego. That's what it is. And this is actually a good thing. It's okay to want to live up to your ego. In fact, especially as men, we must. You know, there's a sense of you have to live up to your ego sometimes. And that's not a bad thing. Okay, having no ego is dangerous. Having a healthy ego, that's good. That's really positive. That's really good. And I think that a lot of men have made themselves believe that having an ego is bad, or seeing other people having like different opinions than them is bad. And it's not like it's bad to see these other people's opinions. And of course, you want to be where your principles and your values align. That's where you need to be. You want to be with the right people sometimes. Being with the right people, how do I say this? Sometimes it's better about, how do I say this? What in the world? What am I trying to say here? Sometimes it's better to be around the right people than it is to be around better people. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So when you're around the right people, you might have similar values and you might have all these things, and that's great. And then there might be a few things that you disagree on, but that's still fantastic because on paper, these other people might be better, but you don't align with the values. You don't align with the principles. It's like going to a job, right? It's like can you imagine going to a job where you don't align with anything? It's hell. You know, it's hell to be there, right? It's really hell. And it's at least a job, of course. And of course, it's, you know, a job's a job, don't get me wrong. But it would be preferable to many people to be at a place where you're more aligned, but maybe they're not the best on paper, right? And so you got to be able to determine what that looks like for you and what that balance is like for you. And me personally, I would rather be around the right people than the better people on paper. However, I do recognize that results and performance is a thing in this life. People do value you based off your performance. I mean, the fact that I wrote this book, right, that shows a lot as far as my achievements in my life so far. Not very many people write a book. Okay, like maybe 3% of the population ever has written a book. And so, and not only that, but even fewer have actually made it to the publishing stage and then actually sold the book. And I'm very, very grateful to everybody that has purchased one of these books because, I mean, this is my life's work. As for the last 5 years, this has been everything. And all of the lives, like the livelihoods and the stories and everything that I've learned from my life in general has been wrapped up and put in that book. And there are some lessons in there that I'm going to have to learn for the rest of my life and learn how to implement for the rest of my life, of course. But it's such an honor and a privilege to have people that value your mind enough to want to be, it's not even entertained or educated per se, but I guess in a form it's both. Educated and entertained by your own thoughts. And my mind is monetized in some way, right? Like in many ways, actually, my mind is monetized. And that's amazing. That's a blessing. And it's just so cool to be able to have that opportunity in this life to really, again, just cultivate that inner sense of groundedness and wisdom and insight and self-realization to the point in which I can hold my boundaries. I can be around the right people. I can have the people that I need with me, and the people that I don't need or that I don't align with, because we might be getting along on paper really well, but our alignment isn't really there. And if that's the case, I would just prefer not to be around those people. That's just me, though. I just don't prefer to be around people that I don't align with. I would rather be around people that I align with because I align with them in principles and values. And it's not anything really personal all the time. It's just, I know that keeping your circle small and having a small pack of lions, a pride of lions, is going to be way better than being around a bunch of hyenas that are going to eat each other for anything and everyone. Okay? So, with all that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful for you. Join the Regal Change Academy, okay? Sign up for a one-on-one mentorship if you're looking for like relationships advice and dating advice or semen retention advice. I don't give advice though. You know, if people ask me about stuff, I'll give them my recommendations, but people have asked me, well, what's your advice on this? What's your advice on that? And I don't want to have to say, oh, I don't give advice every time, but because I understand where they're coming from and I understand the sentiment, but yeah, I'm not really an advice giver. I'm more of a door shower. Like, here's the door. You can walk through it or you cannot. It is your choice. I don't know why I did that voice just there, but that's the point, right? Sometimes you just got to be who you are, man. Just be who you are. But I hope that everybody has a blessed rest of your day or evening or whenever you are watching this, wherever you are watching this. I'm grateful to have you with me. Peace. Until next time.